Hey everyone, welcome back to the Racevice Smokehouse and Grill, and today we are doing the basics on brisket. Let's go. Thanks for hanging around, and like I said, today we're doing the basics of brisket. There's a million different ways to cook a brisket. We're focusing on the basics. We're going to talk about trimming, what temperatures to cook, when to wrap, how long to rest, and when to slice. So first thing we're going to do is trim this bad boy up. We are going to keep all this fat because we're going to use it for tallow. We're going to use it for making sausages. So don't get rid of this fat if you're into that. If you want to make tallow, check out this video here or here or here, wherever it's at. First thing we're going to do, you get a lot of this hard fat here, which, like I said, for the cook, no bueno, but for using it later, very bueno. One tip is to trim this at a little cooler temperature, just out of the fridge. That way it's easier to cut. The fat's a little harder and it isn't as mushy when you're trying to trim it. You're really going to attack that hard fat or anything that doesn't look like it's going to cook well. And then you'll see here this discoloration. This usually comes from packaging, oxidation. So you want to get rid of that because that's not gonna eat well. So just slice that off. Another tip is that you don't want pointy edges like this guy here because this will take a lot of heat. So we want to kind of round this off. That way it's more aerodynamic and it won't take a huge hit from the heat. We're going to get to this side here in a second, but first let's keep working on this. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Trim some more of this off. You see this ugly looking stuff here? We're going to take that right off. And we're going to go get all this off of there. You're not going to want to eat that and it's not going to cook right anyway, so we'll just keep going. Same thing with this stuff here. This floppy, hangy edges, get rid of it because that's just going to burn up and you're not going to want to eat that. One thing I've learned is you are going to trim a lot off a brisket. So don't be shocked when you're like, man, there's a lot of this brisket gone for the trimming. It happens. You want to cook the best meat possible, so you gotta keep trimming. Okay, now we're back around to the other side, this side, and the top is all looking to my liking. Now we're gonna just keep going, getting that fat off of here that we know we're not gonna eat up. Okay, this is a little thinner here, so this could potentially burn up. So again, just like we rounded off this side, we're gonna kinda round this off too. I'm really liking the look of the meat side of this, so we're going to flip it over to the fat side, and we're going to clean this up a little bit too. Still a lot of fat on here. Now your goal is to keep about 1/4 inch of a fat cap on here for when it cooks. It's going to render nice, give you that great juicy fatty flavor. You can still see here, there's a lot of thick fat on here, so we're just going to take that down a little bit more. This brisket is trimmed up to my liking. Nice uniform. This fat, you could keep trimming this all day, but eventually you'll end up separating the flat from the point. I like cooking it whole, so this fat in here is going to render and make it really nice and juicy. Next step is your rub. We're going to rub this up. I'm keeping it simple today. You could do a million different things. There's a million different rubs out there you could use. My favorite for brisket, beef in general, is salt and pepper. What I'm going to do is make a quick rub right here. I have 2 parts coarse pepper all over the table and 1 part kosher salt. spilled a little bit on the cutting board here. That's all right, because as we're rubbing it, you're gonna hit the sides and this stuff is gonna get used up anyway. So that's all right, you make a little mess, who cares, you're doing barbecue. Get this mixed up nice and thoroughly. Now we are going to rub this down. I always cook briskets fat side up, no matter what cooker I'm on. Fat side up is the way I do it. So we're going to rub the meat side first. That way, when we're done, we're going to flip it over, rub the fat side, and then it'll be ready to go on. You can see this nice pepper layer, nice salt layer. That pepper is really going to help give you a great bark. Brisket's all rubbed up. We're going to be cooking this one on the Weber Smokey Mountain today, but these tips could go along with any smoker you use, even your Weber kettle. Cook it at indirect heat at 275 degrees. That's my wheelhouse. That's the temperature I love smoking meat at, 275. Never does me wrong. We're going to put this on right now. Let's go put it on. So the smoker is up to temp. Today we're using Jealous Devil lump charcoal with some post oak to give some great smoky flavor. We're also using a water pan. I suggest using a water pan in any smoker, especially for long cooks like briskets, so you keep moisture in that chamber and you don't let that meat dry out. So let's put this brisket on. Brisket is on. I am going to be putting a temp probe into the flat. Reason I put it into the flat is because that's the side that could dry out more easily. You don't really have to worry that much about the point, because the point has a lot of that intramuscular fat that's going to render and keep it nice and juicy throughout the cook. So now it's on, we got our temp probe in, we're ready to go. We're going to close this up and we're going to let it ride for a couple hours without checking it. We just want to make sure the temp stays constant, and then we're going to come back in a couple hours, make sure that bark is looking good. Maybe give it a spritz of water. We're only going to use water for you. You don't need anything fancy. You just got to keep moisture on that surface. So let's close this up and we'll be back in a couple hours. Okay, this brisket's been going for roughly 2.5 hours, rolling between 255 and 275 the whole time. We're going to open it up for the first time, check it. Let's take a look. The brisket is coming along very nice. You can see that we're starting to get a little dry out around here. So what we're gonna do is just spritz it with a little water. Brisket is spritzed up. We're just gonna let this keep rolling until it hits that stall. We're looking somewhere between probably 165 to 175, depending on what the bark looks like. We really wanna get this bark to set up and get a great color on it, so we're just gonna leave it rolling uncovered for a while. We're gonna close this up and we're gonna check on it in a little bit. Brisket's been on about 6 hours. We're going to take a look at it right now. It's reading an internal temperature of about 170. If we like the way it looks, we're going to wrap it up right now. So let's take a quick look. This brisket is looking really, really nice. Got this great dark bark that's formed around here, which is what we're really looking for. The bark isn't coming off to the touch, so we know that it's set up well. Next we're gonna do, we're gonna pull this off and wrap it in butcher paper. The reason that I'm wrapping in butcher paper is because it allows that bark to stay set up, whereas I've done it in foil before and it kind of washes that bark out sometimes. There's also the foil bolt method, which I've done a video for before. You could check it out somewhere around here. I'll also leave the link in the description. But we're going basics today, butcher paper. Get some butcher paper. It really is the best for wrapping brisket. So let's go get that set up. Okay, I have my butcher paper all set up here. I'm gonna have to extend this at some point so I could fit this, but I'm gonna start the hard way here. So I like to just spritz with a little bit of water just to get the paper pliable as we're putting it on. I always like to cook fat up, even when it's in the wrap. So I'm gonna put it fat side up, wrap it, turn it, then it's gonna be fat side down, and I'm gonna wrap it one more time to get that fat up again. So let's go get that brisket and throw her on here. This brisket is looking great, exactly how we want it. This great bark, that fat is rendering nice. Okay, so now to wrap it, again, this is fat side up. We're just gonna give it a quick tuck here. That's fat side down. Now we're gonna go back to fat side up. Nice and tight, all wrapped up. This is going to collect all those juices and let that really break down more inside while really keeping that bark intact. So we're going to put this back on the grill, and this is going to go somewhere between 200 to 205 until it is probe tender, like it's going a hot knife through butter. So let's get this back on until it's done. So we're closing in at 9 hours on this brisket. We're currently reading internally at 203. We're gonna take the instant read thermometer and check in a few spots as well just to verify it. Again, I'm really making sure just to make sure that that flat is probe tender, like hot knife going through butter. That's when we know it's done. Make sure it's nice and loose and ready to go. If it is, we're gonna take it out and let it rest. So I already have a hole in here from where I was testing the temp earlier. You can see we're reading at that 201, 202. And with the one hole, you can check in multiple places. Yep, and everywhere we're reading anywhere around 200 to 203. 205 there. Let's check the point. Yeah, this is like a hot knife going through butter, so it is time to pull this off and let it rest. We're gonna let this rest until an internal temperature of about 160, 165 before we slice it. Let's get this off the grill. And I know it's tough to tell here, but trust me when I say that this is jiggly and soft. Just by squeezing it, I can tell that the texture is right where I want it to be. So this is gonna be great. Okay, this brisket is done. It rested roughly about 2.5 hours in a cooler in the butcher paper. Came down to about 160 degrees internal. We're gonna unwrap this, take a look at it, slice it, taste it. The rest is so important because you let that, one, the temperature come down, two, you let those juices redistribute so they don't just pour out when you open the bag. They go back into that meat, keep that meat nice and juicy. So let's open this up, take a look at it. See those juices running. Look at the jiggle. You got all these great juices in here. Oh yeah. That's one of the reasons why you want to make sure you rest. Let those juices really break down, redistribute, so you're going to have a nice juicy brisket. One thing you look for in the end is that jiggle, and it's jiggling. All right, so now I'm gonna slice this up. You wanna slice against the grain. That's something I should have talked about earlier in the video, but we know that the grain was running this way, so we're gonna slice against the grain here. Looking great. And this is why I like to keep that fat on top, because you get that nice fat cap. And we just finished cutting this through. So now when you're cutting, this is the flat side, this is the leaner side, this is the point side, this is the fatter side, this is the side you get your burnt ends from. This grain runs different than the flat. So as you saw, we cut this way. Now we're gonna rotate this guy and we're gonna cut this way, because that's the way the grain runs. And you could just see how awesome these are looking. There's that tenderness that you're looking for, the bend test, the hang. Does it pull apart? Yep. But it doesn't fall apart from the weight of itself, but a gentle pull and it comes right apart. That's what you're looking for. Nothing beats a good brisket. This little chunk here, we're going to cube up. Be a little burnt end action going on there. Salty, smoky, beefy. Everything you're looking for in a brisket. Thank you for checking this video out. If I missed anything to do with the basics and you have any questions, please comment below with any questions you have. If you like what we did today, please give me a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button. Check me out on social media on Facebook and Instagram, and we'll be talking to you soon. Cheers everybody, take care.